I
Yeah.
wanted to loop back to your comment about choosing to niche into mental health. We also have a course on niching, and I think it's sometimes quite hard for students to get their head around what niching actually is. A lot of them coming into the program are apprehensive about it, thinking, I don't want to box myself in, I don't want to limit, my opportunities. What do you have to say about that? Like, what caused you to decide to have a niche and think that that would be a good thing for your business?
Yeah, I mean, I'd heard about niching. In the beginning, I was doing every therapeutic area under the sun, and even advertising that I did that, and getting work in all different areas. And then for a while, I decided to niche in oncology and mental health, because oncology I had a lot of work in, and mental health was my interest. So I did that for a while. And then I think niching down specifically into mental health just came from deciding that I want to do something that I enjoy doing and that I'm interested in. And there have been times when I felt that perhaps I'm causing other people with other work, such as oncology, not to approach me. But there's definitely there's work in the mental health area and in whatever niche you choose. And you'll definitely appear as more of an expert when you niche down.
Yeah. So it's all
So you're
mindset.
posting on LinkedIn, you're posting about that niche, and you are becoming an expert in that area.
Yeah, that was going to be my follow-up question about kind of what that looks like in a tangible sense, because, from what you've said, niching and the decision to niche really comes from like this shift in mindset around things like there is an abundance of work out there in this area, and also kind of almost your self-worth is increasing because you're deciding, I want to do work that I find especially fulfilling, and I don't have to take on anything that isn't really enjoyable and fulfilling to me. So it's kind of those two things simultaneously, but then it's also the understanding that you're going to connect better with people who are looking for an expert in your niche if you fully accept and lean into that, and that's what you're putting out into the universe. And so it's great that you recognize that, because some people in the earlier stages, they'll say that they have a niche, but they actually don't. They're still marketing themselves in all these different ways. They still list all these, millions of areas that they work in. There's actually nothing about their brand that says that they specialize. They just think that they do. And so that's a really important distinction to make.
Yeah, and another comment to make is that niching can also be in a type of deliverable, not necessarily, as you know, it doesn't have to be in a therapeutic area. So many people would choose to specialize in medical education, for example, and CME, or manuscript writing or something like that. But I chose to specialize in a therapeutic area due to my interest. So I'm happy to work for any audience, any type of deliverable within that area.
Yes, absolutely. And so it's really kind of looking at all the different options and then thinking, well, what is it about this thing that makes me particularly interested in it? And I was very similar. I wanted to keep the audiences open, because I really enjoy kind of adapting my styles of writing to suit different audiences. Not everybody likes to do that. Not everybody is good at doing that, and they shouldn't,
No.
and same thing with therapeutic area. Some people really love being an expert in one area and staying up to date with all the research around that, and they might have a personal connection to that. And then other people can't imagine anything worse than that, because they want to keep things open and they want to be learning about different things. And so, both of them are viable options, definitely. And your niche should really be a reflection of who you are and what you're passionate about. So yeah, that's great.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I think having a personal connection to your niche is key, because that's what's going to keep you interested, keep you driven and motivated. So whatever your personal connection is, it's quite important to have one.
Yeah. We do get a lot of people coming into the program with this misconception that your niche must be based around where the money's at, you know, which industry is the biggest, which one has the most need, you know, who's funding it the most. But the reality of the situation is that all of them are needed, you know. And so if you're making decisions based on what you think other people want or need, you're never going to have that sense of fulfillment and enjoyment that comes with being self-employed. And so we always dismiss that kind of thinking, even though it makes sense to think that way. You know, it's kind of more of a strategic way of thinking. It's actually not, it doesn't translate into how business actually works. If we think about why we hire somebody and why we look to an expert for that, it has nothing to do with, you know, some bigger thing that's happening. You know, it's just between that one person and then the person who's hiring them.
Yeah, definitely, because it can definitely feel like you want to go where there's a lot of work, but then you're going to have many other writers doing the same thing. So you're going to be competing because of that reason.
Yeah, and it's all hearsay at the end of the day, because, you know, everybody's trying to figure out what's the next biggest thing and which bandwagon they should be jumping onto, and nobody ever wins when they do that, because nobody really knows if they're making decisions based on facts and truth or based on hearsay. And so, you know, it's just not the way to go. But, you know, I mean, your approach of kind of getting started with a bunch of things and then refining your niche as you go is also a great approach, because if you don't right off the bat have that insight as to what your passion really is and how you want to specialize, kind of picking something out of thin air is not really gonna work. You know, there has to be a backing behind it.
Yeah, and it's also a learning curve, because when I first got into medical writing, the whole field was new to me. So I didn't really know that much about niching, and I felt like it's niching because I'm in medical writing. But then you see how many other people are freelance medical writers. And yeah, it was just through time and learning and coaching and all different things that I learned about niching, and I decided to niche, and the personal choice in the end was what I'm passionate about.